Colonel, and I've been back in the shed with a new project. I've decided to make a near copy of one of Fender's quirkier amps. It's the Musicmaster Bass amp, and this was produced between 1970 and 1980, and it came as a package, a starter amp and guitar package with a beginner's solid body bass guitar and the 12-watt amp. I've also found that these amps can be useful as harmonica amps, and so I thought I would investigate that. It's quirky in that it's the only amplifier that Fender ever produced with 6 AQ5 output tubes, and the other difference is that in the circuit the phase inverter is not a tube, but it's a transformer. If you think that's interesting, stick with me and we'll go on this little journey together. I first saw this amp in action not as a bass amp but as a harmonica amp about 20 years ago, and it sounded pretty good. So this is from an eBay listing, just giving you a little bit of a look at what one of the originals looked like. 12-inch speaker, there it is. So if you're interested in seeing me build one of these, stick around. This will be the beating heart of my Fender Musicmaster Bass amp. It's a power supply from 1967. The power transformer will supply B+ of 300 volts, and a 6V4 rectifier will provide 90 milliamps of current, which is sufficient to run a pair of 6 AQ5 output tubes and one 12AX7. Now I'm going to have this separate from the preamp section. I've bent up one side of the bass to provide a little bit of extra real estate, and I'm going to put two 7-pin sockets here for the 6 AQ5s. There'll be room over here for the output transformer, and I think probably sticking out this end will be the interstage transformer for the phase inverter, and there should be room inside for the first filter capacitor and associated small components. Then there will be an umbilical cord running from here up to the top of the amplifier. This is going to be sitting in the base of the cabinet, up to the top where the control panel will be, with the 12AX7 and the controls. That's the plan. So here we go, one step forward. I've added the two 7-pin sockets for the 6 AQ5s, and you can see the tubes in place there with the 6V4 rectifier behind them. Well, here we are a step further along, and I've added the output transformer, speaker socket, and here we have the phase inverter transformer. On the other side, fuse and power on-off switch. Underneath, it's a little bit busy, and I'm hoping that I don't have to revisit any of this wiring. So this power section will be sitting in the bottom of the cabinet, and there will be an umbilical cord which will go up to the top of the cabinet where the control panel and preamp circuitry, including a 12AX7, will be mounted on a piece of angle aluminium. Okay, let's look at the circuit for the Fender Musicmaster Bass of 1970 to 1980. This is my redrawing of the Fender Circuit, and as you can see, it's a very simple circuit with very few components. So we've got single 12AX7 for preamp. There's the transformer, which replaces a valve as the phase inverter, and we've got a pair of 6AQ5 output tubes, cathode biased. Now the original circuit had diodes for rectification. I've used a 6V4 rectifier, valve rectifier. Otherwise this is drawn with all the components pretty much the same as the Fender original. The break in the circuit where the umbilical cord goes between the power supply in the base of the amp and the controls up the top is around about here in the circuit. I did make a number of component changes eventually. I found that the amp was excessively bright, and I've completely eliminated this very low value cap here, and the other tone caps in the circuit, 0.01 here, and well, basically that's it. I increased the value of that to, I think, 0.05 to get a little bit more bass coming through. And I did also change the tone control from the original. Not shown there, but I'll hopefully show the revised tone control later on. There are no screen resistors, so everything's very basic, but it all works, and that's the nuts and bolts of it. Here we go, I found it. It's always a good idea if you're making changes to a circuit on the fly, that when you get to the change that works for you, that you at least do a quick little sketch and keep it somewhere where you'll find it in the future. So this is, I didn't like the tone control on the original Musicmaster Bass circuit, and I've tried many one knob tone controls, and obviously some work better than others. This is one that I've used a number of times, and it's from an early Marshall circuit, the very famous 18-watt TMB circuit, and this is just a single knob tone control, very low loss because it doesn't involve the use of any resistors apart from the pot. You've just got a couple of capacitors. So this involved changing the value of the volume control as well as the tone control, but it didn't involve a lot of work, and so this is the tone control that I used in my version of the Musicmaster Bass, and I found it works quite well. Now I guess it's pretty obvious that you need to drill all the holes you need in the chassis before you start filling the chassis up with components. Unfortunately, I've broken this rule. I need to drill a fairly large hole through the side here for the 5 wires of the umbilical cord to come out from here and go up to the preamp and control panel section. So what I've done in order to hopefully not destroy any of the components inside. I've clamped a little piece of scrap timber directly behind where the hole is going to go. So hold your breath, cross your fingers, and we'll see if this works out. I'm taking this process pretty slowly. That's the grommet I'm going to be putting in there, and I'll need an 11mm hole for that. And I've started with a very small drill bit, and I'm going up 2 steps in size at a time, and being careful not to use too much pressure, because when the drill bites as it just goes through the metal, it really tends to twist the job. So easy does it. Now my drill bits only go up to 10mm, that's what I've got there, a 10mm hole, but I need 11 or maybe 12mm so that the grommet will fit in there. And so in order to go that last step, I'm going to be using a step bit in the drill, and that will do the job. Well, there we go, grommet successfully installed and no damage on the other side. So the holes have been drilled in the control panel, which is very simple, consists of a piece of 40 by 40mm angled 1.5mm thick aluminium, and very simple, just pilot light, input, and the 2 controls, volume and tone. And then we have the socket for the 12AX7 preamp tube, and this will be the socket for the umbilical, which comes up from the lower section of the amp with the power supply and output tubes, and so all the necessary wiring will come up to connect to the control panel. Yes, indeed, it's working. Good news. Well, I've jumped forward past a few of the boring steps, and here is the completed, or my version, of the Fender Musicmaster Bass amp. So with the back off, here is the final project, and there have been some changes along the way. The chassis, which I mentioned was pretty cramped inside, I decided to completely gut that and build a chassis from scratch that was a bit larger and allowed me to spread out the components so that it's much easier to work on if any work needs to be done in the future. And the CTS speaker that I had originally had an intermittent connection that I couldn't fix, so I've had another CTS speaker sourced. And the reason that I went for CTS again rather than anything else is that the CTS speakers have this little narrowed in waist around the perimeter, and it's the only 12-inch speaker I could find that would actually fit into the cabinet. So by default I've kept things pretty original. There's the preamp section up there with the 12AX7 and the very colourful umbilical cord connecting the two parts of the circuit.
Whoa, start again.
Yes, we'll edit that out.